All right, so we're out here at Middle Creek Wildlife Management Area. My name is Lauren Ferreri, and I am the Biological and Visitor Center Manager here. So today we're just going to talk to you briefly about what is Middle Creek, what you can do here, and what you can see. So Middle Creek Wildlife Management Area is actually considered a state game lands. It is owned and operated by the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We're the state agency that manages all wild birds and wild mammals. But Middle Creek's a little bit different than your normal state game lands, which is basically public land that you can go hunt and recreate on. Middle Creek has areas that are closed to the public, specifically for waterfowl and wildlife. We also have a visitor center, which is the only visitor center that the Game Commission owns and operates. Today we're at a location called Stop 3, which at Middle Creek we have a tour driving route that you can come and check out. At each stop you can see a variety of different things, but behind me here is what we call the controlled area. So there's a few different types of areas at Middle Creek. One of them is the controlled area. This area is completely closed to the public with the exception of permitted hunts that we have. And when I say permitted, I just mean that you have to apply to be able to hunt in them. So it's not just open to the public. The main difference between this area and another area I'm about to show you is that there is an agricultural component. So you can see the corn behind me, but you're also going to see this hayfield here. So we do have farmers that help us manage our property here. There's pretty strict rules here though that make it different than normal farmland. So we don't allow the use of pesticides because we want insects on the property. To have insects also helps to feed the wildlife. But we also don't allow cutting of any of our hayfields until after August. And the reason for that is because a lot of the birds that are here at Middle Creek will nest in these hayfields, and those species are actually, most of them are in decline. So Middle Creek is known as an important bird area and also an important mammal area, which just means that we have an abundance of species that utilize our property at some point during the year. But we have 280 species of birds that come to Middle Creek throughout the year, and 110 of those actually breed at Middle Creek at some point. So pretty interesting stuff. But I would like to show you a different area now. So across the street here at Stop 3, this is what we call the propagation area. The propagation area might look similar to the controlled area, but the difference here, everything on the other side of that, those signs there, is that it's still completely closed to the public, but there's no hunting at all. So on the other side of that tree line there is the main lake. The lake is about 360 acres with a 40-acre island in the middle of it. It is open to boating and non-motorized boats, kayaking, canoeing, but it's only open at certain times of the year, mostly because we're here for waterfowl. So the propagation area has a lot of different species in it. Right now, if you're looking across the street, there's going to be a lot of pollinators or flowers in there that are benefiting pollinator species such as birds, bees, bats, and it's just a really, really great area. The diversity of species we have is really high. I mentioned Middle Creek is a little bit different than other state game lands, and that's because we share recreational users. So while we were built for somewhat for waterfowl hunting, we also have a lot of people who come to hike our 12 different hiking trails here, people who recreate on their bikes, who come to visit the visitor center, birders, photographers, you name it. We are at what we call a water impoundment here. So what that basically means is a pond that has the ability to be adjusted as far as water levels are concerned. So a few months ago this looked like a normal pond, but we had to replace what we call a water control structure on it, which allows us to fluctuate the water levels. Sometimes we can raise the water levels up, sometimes we can raise them down. But to the untrained eye, this might look bad. It might look like we're harming the environment, but actually we're creating a lot of habitat by doing this. So you'll see geese in the background there. There's a great blue heron, some killdeer. So this is really beneficial for shorebirds. By exposing those mud flats, we allow them to feed on the mud flats. But what we'll actually do is allow rain over time to refill this. But in the meantime, plants will start to grow. And when those plants go to seed, they'll drop all that seed down, and then waterfowl will come in here in the fall and actually feed on that seed. So in the fall, once this is filled back up, you'll see a ton of different species here. The shorebirds are here right now, and it ends up turning into a great mecca for wildlife. You might be wondering what these other structures here that you're seeing. So right in front of us, this big red tub is actually what we call a goose tub. And so that's when the water level is a little bit higher, a Canada goose will actually come here in the spring, nest in that tub, and then the ducklings will either come out the side hole there or up over the top. There's also a box in the corner of the impoundment over here. That's for wood ducks. And there's a few other goose nesting tubs on the property. And then also in the just next to the left of the geese out there, that's a mallard nesting tube as well. So those are all the different waterfowl nesting structures we have here. But as I mentioned, to the untrained eye, this kind of looks, it looks bad. It doesn't look like it would provide any habitat, but it's actually providing a lot of habitat for a variety of different species. We have over 30 different water impoundments on the property, but this is one of our most public ones. And you can actually see this right next to the visitor center if you come and visit Middle Creek.